don't scroll. It is minus 40 degrees outside. The wind is cutting across an empty highway. Snow is burying everything in sight. And somewhere in that frozen darkness, a truck driver is sleeping. And some do, but that answer costs up to $50 in fuel every single night. And in many states, it is now illegal. So the trucking world built something better. Multiple systems, layered solutions, each one solving a different part of the same problem. And together, they turn a metal cab into a survival capsule that works at temperatures that would kill an unprepared person within hours. The auxiliary power unit. The alternator keeps the truck batteries charged, feeds an inverter which gives AC power in the sleeper, and the APU engine gets its coolant from the engine cooling system, so it keeps the engine coolant warm too. This is called an APU, an auxiliary power unit, a small independent diesel engine separate from the main truck engine that runs quietly through the night. It produces electricity, it produces heat, it keeps the cab at a controlled temperature without burning the main engine's fuel at highway rates. A full night on an APU costs roughly $10 to $15 in diesel. A full night idling the main engine costs $40 to $50. The APU pays for itself within months for any driver running winter routes. But not every truck has one, and that is where the next layer begins. The diesel-fired bunk heater. For trucks without a full APU, there is a more targeted solution. Fuel-fired heaters draw directly from the truck's diesel supply. They operate independently of the engine and don't require external power. Brands like Espar and Webasto make units that mount inside the cab. They pull a tiny amount of diesel, a fraction of what the main engine burns, and convert it directly into heat through a combustion chamber no bigger than a shoebox. Eberspacher heaters are known for their efficiency, quiet operation, and versatility. They're commonly used for sleeper cab heating and cold start assistance on light to heavy-duty vehicles. The driver sets the temperature before sleeping. The unit fires automatically to maintain it. The main engine stays cold. The fuel bill stays manageable. At minus 40, this is not a comfort feature. It is survival equipment. The insulation layer. Here is what people who have never been inside a sleeper cab don't understand. The cab itself is a thermal problem. Metal conducts cold, windows leak heat. Every gap around a door seal is a pathway for frozen air to enter. Inspect the seals around windows and doors. Even small gaps let cold air in. You can use automotive weather stripping or foam tape to fill gaps. It is inexpensive and makes a noticeable difference. Consider a thermal curtain or draft blocker between your sleeper and the cab. This can keep heat in your sleeping area and block cold air from the cab. Experienced drivers treat their cab like a tent in a blizzard. Reflective window covers, foam insulation panels cut to fit, thermal curtains separating the sleeping berth from the front cab. Every measure reducing the surface area through which heat can escape. The goal is not to heat the entire truck. It is to heat the smallest possible space, the berth, and keep it there. The 12-volt system. When the APU and the bunk heater are not options, the truck's battery system becomes the last line of defense. 12-volt electric blankets or heated mattress pads draw from the truck's battery or an APU, effective when used with battery management and low power settings. A 12-volt heated mattress pad draws minimal current. It warms from below, the most efficient direction since heat rises and the mattress itself would otherwise conduct cold from the metal floor beneath it. The critical rule is voltage management. The trucker's cab only gets the leftover voltage from the series of batteries, so drivers need to stay within their voltage limits. Otherwise, if the energy demands are too high, the appliances may start to pull energy from the truck's starter and may even kill the battery. A dead battery at minus 40 in a remote location is not an inconvenience. It is an emergency. The layered sleep system? The heating technology is only half the answer. The other half is what goes on the body. Layered sleep system. Base thermal layer using merino wool or synthetic, mid layers of fleece, top sleeping bag or comforter. Multiple thin layers trap air and allow adjustment. This is the same principle used by Arctic expedition teams. Not one thick layer, multiple thin ones, each trapping a pocket of warm air against the body. The combination creating insulation that no single blanket can match. Drivers who run the coldest routes, through Canada, through the northern states in January, treat this the way a soldier treats their kit, prepared before they need it, never improvised in the moment. The idle laws nobody talks about. Here is the layer most people never reach when they look this up. Idling a truck engine for heat is increasingly restricted across North America. More than 30 U.S. states and several Canadian provinces have anti-idling laws with specific exemptions for extreme cold. But those exemptions have limits. Some allow idling only below a certain temperature threshold. Others require documentation. The EPA estimates that long-haul trucks collectively idle for approximately 6 billion hours per year. The fuel cost of that idling exceeds $3 billion annually. The emissions equivalent is roughly 11 million tons of carbon dioxide. That is why the APU industry exists. That is why bunk heaters are standard equipment on modern sleeper cabs. Not because trucking companies care about driver comfort, but because regulators made idling expensive and in many places illegal. The driver sleeping comfortably at -40 is the end result of an entire regulatory and engineering ecosystem built around a problem most people never knew existed. What happens when everything fails? Now here is the scenario nobody wants to think about. The APU fails. The bunk heater won't start. The batteries are low. The temperature outside is -40 and dropping. Experienced drivers have a protocol for this too. Run the main engine for 20 to 30 minutes before sleeping to bring the cab temperature up. Then shut it down. The thermal mass of a warmed cab, especially with proper insulation, holds heat for longer than most people expect. Then wake every few hours, check temperature, run the engine again if needed. It is not comfortable, but it is survivable. Because the first rule of winter trucking is never rely on a single system. Every experienced driver has a backup for the backup. Because out there, at -40, failure is not an inconvenience. It is a countdown. Drop a comment. What temperature is it outside where you are right now? Because somewhere tonight, a driver is sleeping through worse. The next time you see a truck parked at a rest stop on a winter night, that driver is not just sleeping. They are managing a system, a layered, engineered solution to one of the most hostile sleeping environments on Earth. APU running, bunk heater set, insulation sealed, layers on, voltage managed, backup plan ready. While the world sleeps in heated houses without a second show you next, will make this look simple.